Well, hello and welcome to the show. I'm so glad you've joined us. Merry Christmas! What a beautiful week, what a beautiful time of year. It's actually my favorite holiday. I am so excited about the show we're bringing you today. We've brought you lots of shows over the last 8 or 9 years. You've seen the little boys lost at Christmas. You went on Christmas tree hunts with us. You've seen the top bid competitions, cowboy treasure hunts. We've done all kinds of things. Never before have I brought you a show quite like I'm going to show you this week. A dear friend of mine, Len Crow, is riding 7,000 miles for children. He started in the furthest north point in Alaska, and he's going to end in the furthest south point in Mexico. We caught up with him at the U.S.-Canadian border above Babb, Montana, and rode with him for a little while, and I want you to hear his story. That's coming up right here on Discovering the Horseman Within. I first met Len in 1996. I was a 21-year-old kid training horses and shoeing horses for the summer up in Alaska, something I did from the time I was 13 until 96 was my last summer up there. Len came through on his first ride for children. He was riding at that time from Fairbanks to El Paso, Texas, and I shod his horse for him, built some special shoes. He was having some problems. We had a great time, and I learned to get to know this man. This man has an incredible heart, a heart for God and a heart for children. And so as you listen to what he's doing, some of it's heavy. Some of what he has to say, it's hard to say joyful things when you're done hearing it. But it's amazing what he's doing, the stories he tells. You're going to love this man. Watch the twinkle in his eyes. I love to watch his eyes. If ever I met a real life Santa Claus, he doesn't have the beard, but his eyes, they twinkle. I think it's the love of God and the joy of Christ that's in his heart that you see twinkling in his eyes. I think that you will really learn to love and enjoy my good friend, Len Crow.
So we decided to start something we call Ride for Missions, using one of the attributes that are kind of precious to us, and that's our horses. We've had horses in our family now for 39 years, and God just gelled the two ideas together, missions and horses. And so we started to embark on utilizing our horses to raise money for missions. Our first ride was from Fairbanks, Alaska to El Paso, Texas back in 1996. Then we went out to the Salt Lake Desert in 1998 and challenged a record set by a Pony Express rider by the name of Pony Bob Haslam. Our first try, we rode 151 miles in 24 hours nonstop. Then we went back again in 2002 and rode 308 miles in 46 hours. Then we took our horses out to the western part of Canada in a relay, the first time I'd used multiple riders, and rode from Emerson, Manitoba along the Redcoat Trail all the way to the Calgary Stampede. Then we were able to put 8 of my horses in the Calgary Stampede parade. And this is our longest ride. It's 11,000 kilometers from the area of Prudhoe Bay, Alaska at Dead Horse to Guadalajara, Mexico.
And so this actually has been planned for about a year. I had told him that if he decided to do that, I would donate a new Lakota trailer for him to use, because needless to say, it was quite a trip, and he's going to have something to carry the horses in, plus something to stay in. And that's how I got involved in this particular ride.
We're hoping to raise money for 5 countries, 5 different orphanages. We started our own orphanage in Cambodia in 8 years ago. We opened our second facility just 7 months ago. We also helped a man that had an orphanage in the Philippines raise money for a building project. Then again, we raised money for a man in Mexico that had an orphanage that needed a building. And each time we would take volunteers down and go and work on the buildings. This year past, I was able to go to India, and I was traveling with our friend from Mexico, and he and I both agreed somebody needed to open an orphanage there. I said, you start the children's home, I'll try and raise some funds for you. And so our hope is to raise money for our own orphanage in Cambodia, then in the Philippines, in Mexico, the brand new one in India, and then one that started just last year in Guatemala. For example, this last year, I took 9 people from Alberta, never been on a missions trip before, and we visited Cambodia. We had a carpenter, we had an electrician, we had a plumber, and we were able to give each of them several children, and then I allowed them to go and teach these kids their trades. That was such a blessing. But while we were there, we also were able to take these volunteers to the place outside of Phnom Penh called Smoky Mountain. It's a garbage dump. And it is not like West Virginia's Smoky Mountain. This is 100 acres, 300 feet high of solid waste. There is no landfill, so you have methane gas coming up through that garbage. Mostly it is overcast and foggy with all of the smoke coming up off there. At 110-degree heat, you sometimes have spontaneous combustion, and over 1,000 families live on top of that garbage dump. We were able to take 50 children off the dump this last February, and we have a facility down below where they each got a shower. We gave them a little box lunch with rice and fish and a little juice box and some vegetables. We were able to give them new clothes. Some of them came down with no clothes or just rags. We had, many of them had no shoes, so we were able to give out shoes to most of the children. We didn't have quite enough to go around. But most importantly, we could share the gospel with them so that they hear that this home does not have to be their permanent dwelling, that there's a place in heaven, that God has prepared a home for them like they could never imagine. And then, of course, to take some of those children, we can't take them all, of course, but we have taken 3 from the garbage dump and brought them into our orphanage. Now they're happy, healthy, strong little children. When they first come to us, they're full of parasites, covered in lice, oftentimes very dirty. Almost always they just have rags on, no shoes. But now we have an opportunity where they have a good, wholesome, healthy life. They have a school there at the orphanage as well as a church right at the orphanage. The children learn how to speak and write and read English as well as their own native tongue of Khmer. They are able to learn other curriculum as well that we are teaching, and then they learn music and they get to work at the church. They take part in it, and sometimes ushering, sometimes special music. When I go to preach there, oftentimes the children are my special music as I travel from place to place. To take them and give them that kind of a surrounding and tell them that there's a God in heaven that loves them, for God does love them as much as he does any children anywhere. But for us to be able to share that with them is a great, great joy. We have 2 children in our orphanage, one with 3 and one with 6. We've had them now 7 years, but they were going to be sold into the child sex trade. The United Nations said this problem didn't exist 25 years ago, but now it's out of control. If we could just have people pray for us there in Cambodia to help with the plight of these children, for we live in a bubble in North America. Most of us don't realize the plight of these children. We are exposed to it from time to time by media or the news and so on, but it seems very plastic or remote to us. But in fact, they are real people with real names and real feelings and real emotions and very real needs. And everything that folks do to help can make a world of difference. Their government is doing so very little in this case, oftentimes because they are unable to. They are a very poor country. Other countries have tried to help in many ways, but for us, we're grateful that we can have a small part in the lives there of the children in Cambodia. It is the heaviest landmined country in the world. There is estimated more than 10 million landmines still buried in Cambodia. It's the heaviest landmine country, even more than Iraq, Afghanistan, or Iran. And with the rate of extraction, with the help of people from Canada, the United States, and Europe, they expect it would take somewhere around 100 years to clear the landmines there in Cambodia. So the Cambodian government many years ago said that if that were the case, that they would clear the landmines themselves one leg at a time. And I have seen more amputees in Cambodia, I believe, than any other place that I've ever traveled. Well, the first half of our ride have been wonderful. We've seen so much country that you couldn't normally see by the road or in a car, probably not even in an airplane. We've been able to see it slowly, and we've been on roads, we've been on highways, we have been on cut lines. The oil pipeline coming from Prudhoe Bay down to Fairbanks was an excellent trail to ride, as well as the ice road, or what's normally called the Dalton Highway, or the Hall Road. We saw incredible amounts of wildlife, herds of caribou, grizzly bear, elk, deer, wolves. We have seen all types. In fact, one species I hadn't really counted on is I came across a herd of 75 wild buffalo in the Yukon, and I couldn't help but chase a little. And there were 3 bulls that had no chase. They put their tails up and their heads down and pawed the ground, so we didn't impress them. We let them just have their space and give them lots of room. We've been able to see some amazing pictures of these animals, bull moose. One morning I woke up at 6:30 in the morning and looked out my window in our trailer, and there was a 3,000-pound bull buffalo standing in my corral where my horses normally are. We stayed out overnight in the Brooks Range in Alaska one night just because I wanted to sleep out. I want to stay under the stars, but it's 24 hours of daylight up there at that time. But I stayed out and had my campfire and fell asleep, and then my horse woke me up. She would blow or nicker or paw the ground and tell me there was a bear coming into camp. By 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd had my third bear come in and visit. The first two left fairly quickly. I made lots of noise and banged some my coffee pot around and chucked some rocks at them. But the third one didn't want to leave so easily, and he was on the prod. He came looking at me with his ears flat back and his nose to the ground and just straight to my camp. And so I tried to dissuade him, talked to him quite a bit, but finally when he got in my comfort zone, about 12 feet away, I fired a shot from my shotgun at his feet and dusted him with some gravel and some dirt. That was enough to make him jump back about 30 feet, but then he came back again. And I pleaded with him not to come into camp. I really didn't want to shoot him, and I had pepper spray, and I didn't want to put pepper spray on him either. That would be, a tough thing for him to handle. So we reasoned a little bit, and I finally got a bigger rock and chucked it at him and bounced it off his shoulder. So he went looking for some friendlier company and left me alone for the rest of the night. Really the best horse for a trip like this is a horse with the right kind of temperament, the right kind of mindset, and I have used thoroughbred quarter horses, Tennessee walkers. I prefer Arabians. I don't know. I guess probably I'm just partial to that breed because it's always what I've always used. But the other breeds have done amazing jobs as well. I believe every breed has its superstars, and I've been blessed to be able to have some of those and be able to utilize some of those types of horses. We average around 25 miles a day. That depends on the terrain. If I'm in the mountains, of course, that drops down. I have a lot more climbing. Oftentimes I get to a river that's difficult to cross or to swim, and I have to find a better crossing, and I might be down to 10 miles a day. When I get out into open country, in the foothills or the plains or the desert, then I can pick up my speed to sometimes 35, 40, or even as much as 50 miles in a day. And then when I average it all out, it works out to about 25 miles per day.
Hello, I'm Gary Stites from Lakota of Ohio. I would like to invite you to join us for the longest trail ride in North and Central American history, going from Dead Horse, Alaska to southern Mexico. You can be a part of this ride, or you can support this ride by going to our website and look for details, and help these children around the world that have no one to feed them but us. We just thank you so much. We thank the Lord for the blessings we've received these last several years as Lakota's #1 dealer. The opportunity to be able to help children that have no hope, and many of the times when we go over there, we find parents that can't afford to have their children, and they bring them to us. They're starving. We have children who have lost their parents and have nobody to care for them. The rewards in helping someone of that kind of need is just unmeasurable, and I just look forward to what we can do in the future with the help of so many people that are watching this ride. We've already had several contributions, and thanks to everyone out there, we're able to do more. We thank you.
But we're hoping to raise $1 million on this ride to take to Cambodia, India, Philippines, Mexico, Guatemala. And we will take the money personally. We will take work crews with us and go and work on these projects together. That would be the greatest joy, to be able to do that and see new children come into the orphanages that otherwise there would be no hope that they could come to our children's home. For without the financing available, we just couldn't do it. And right now, I think we're at maybe $60,000. We have a long way to go, but we serve a great and a mighty God. We're looking for perhaps even individuals that could help us, or corporations, or estates. We found that that has been the case where God has intervened for us before. Last year, we had a desire to move up to the northern part of Cambodia. Our facility in Phnom Penh is a wonderful facility. It's very clean, and really, it's the organization in Cambodia said that our orphanage is not the nicest orphanage in Phnom Penh. It was the nicest orphanage in all of Cambodia, because we had our dining hall all lined with ceramic tiles. and our floors all beautifully cared for, and beautiful rooms for our children. And we're so grateful for that. So we decided to start another orphanage in Siem Reap, 6 hours north of Phnom Penh. And we believe that God would help us to do so. We had one element or one problem that was in the way. That was we had no money. But we believed that God could provide. And we prayed and we asked God if He would intervene and help us in that aspect. And we were able to preach at several places. We finally found a home, 14-bedroom, beautiful guest house. It had never been used. It had been built by some folks, but it had never been put into action, so we decided to put an offer on that place. It was for sale for $325,000. But the problem was we had no money. But we serve a great God, and we believe that God would provide for us. This past May, our children moved into that orphanage. God touched the heart of 2 businessmen, one from Canada, one from the United States. They paid for the entire amount of that children's home. Now, children are coming in. It has room for 60 children, but not only children. We're hoping to incorporate the other part of James 1:27, where it speaks of visiting the fatherless and the widows. And we're going to start bringing widow ladies in as well as the children. But we make sure that when someone donates to the orphanages, 100% of that money goes to help those children. Several folks have asked me why I would do a ride like this. But I believe it's a culmination of 2 things. Number one, it is a dream for me to be able to spend this much time with my horses. But it's also, I believe, a commission that God has given us to act. In the book of James, chapter number 1, verse 27, it says, "Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this, is to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction and keep himself unspotted from the world." The Bible only uses that word religion 7 times. And the first 6 times are really not in a very good light. The only time it uses it in a positive aspect is this verse in James 1:27. It's a commission that God gave to us. And I believe it's a calling for every Christian, not just for ourselves, that we get involved in helping with the fatherless and widows. I researched it out one year and decided to find out how many times God coupled those 2 together. And I found out 48 times God used that phrase, the fatherless and the widows. In the book of Psalms and the book of Proverbs, we see our commission once again given to us as Christians to look after the fatherless and the widows. And therefore I believe it's not just a calling for an individual, but for all of God's people to get involved. You see, I believe that God loves the children in these third world countries every bit as He loves ours. But we've been blessed to be born in a place like North America. Here we have so much. And here our children have so much. And I believe that when one has been given such a great amount of abilities and with the prosperity of our countries, then much is also required in order to give back to those that are in less fortunate situations. For folks that do want to help us to get involved, you could contact our website. We have a Facebook page as well. You could follow me on Twitter. I am not a social person, but I have 3 boys, and they said, "Dad, you need to start to get involved with such things." And so you could follow me at Len Crow at NCBC99 on Twitter, or you could go to our Facebook page, Ride for Missions, number 6, Roman numeral. Or you could go to our webpage, North Country Baptist Church, and you can log on there, North Country Baptist Church Aurelia, and you'll find links to both the orphanage, North Country Baptist Children's Home, Cambodia, and the Canadian Pony Express.